Hello, everybody. This is your favorite Bronze Age comic book podcast, Flea Market Fantasy. I am your co-host, Mike L., and as always, I'm joined by...
Michael Dell of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
That's right, and this is a very special episode, 42 weeks in the making. Why don't you tell us why it's special, Mike Dell?
Well, we finally got our favorite person to come on the show. The co-host of the LCS Hockey Radio Show, the co-host of the new podcast, Mackey's Clubhouse, all about the Shield TV show.
Oh, what?
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Larry.
Hey, it's Larry, everybody. Yay. It's been, it has been a long journey to get to this point, I guess. I also don't
2 episodes.
I don't read comics either, so there's a reason behind that,
Yeah,
I haven't really read many comics in the last 30 years.
And then right before the show, Mike L says, "Hey Larry, have you ever listened to an episode?" And Larry says, "Nope."
Nah, I never have. Well, once again, it goes back to I'm not reading the books. I definitely don't want to listen to you guys break down anything X-Men related, anything that has Submariner. I don't like that guy either.
But Larry, you love Spider-Man.
Yeah, when I was younger, I used to read it a lot.
But you still love Spider-Man.
I love the imagery of Spider-Man. I don't follow storylines and stuff, movies and action figures are cool, but I really don't pay that much attention to what's going on in the actual comic universe.
Oh, yeah, well, they have 30,000 Spider-Man titles.
Yeah.
It is daunting, yeah.
So what was the last thing you remember reading Spider-Man related, Larry?
I think Civil War. Is that what it's called? Civil War?
Yep, Civil War. That was 2006, 2007.
Yeah, somebody sent me that in the mail. I can't remember who the hell sent it to me. But that was the last Spider-Man thing I remember reading. Before that, I also read Y: The Last Man at some point in the last 10 years.
Okay.
But that's it as far as comics go, those two.
All right.
Yeah.
And do you remember the first Spidey comic you read as a kid?
Oh, no, I couldn't pinpoint a specific issue. No.
How about a favorite Spider-Man villain?
Well, I've always loved Doc Ock. That's always been my guy. Green Goblin's also right up there. I always liked the Rhino.
But Larry.
Yes.
What about for this episode?
Who
is your favorite Spider-Man
Well,
villain?
the thing is too, though. Venom's become so popular now that Venom's, he's a good guy now, basically.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And it's just it's a weird dynamic that what happened with that character. I think.
Yeah, I guess we should say today we'll be discussing Amazing Spider-Man 300.
Right.
From 1988, correct, Michael? Is that what it was? 88?
Yeah, 88, yep.
And this is the first full appearance of Venom. Technically, his first appearance was issue 299. I guess he wanted to get really? 298
yeah,
in there?
298, yeah. He has a cameo on the last page. Yeah, he's. We cut over to his apartment and we see Eddie Brock looking at a newspaper.
Oh.
And he's got full narration in his head, and basically we see his two hands and the costume kind of
on his hand.
Yeah,
it comes on his hand. We don't see him as Venom though.
No, just his hands and his eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. So 299 at the end, the final page of 299, we get the full Venom look.
Right.
And then this is the first full Venom issue.
Right.
But technically, it actually goes back to Web of Spider-Man, if you want to get real technical about it. But we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
So, Larry, I know you love the Venom movie. All you do is sing that damn song. Go ahead and sing it, Larry. Sing that damn song.
Yeah. The Venom movie's not bad. Listen, I understand it's not great, but it's not bad. And, Venom. You know what hit him. That song's catchy.
So stupid.
Yeah, that song. I hate it. I don't hate the movie. Michael, do you hate Venom the movie?
I don't hate it, but I think it's really dumb.
It is terrible.
Yeah.
Once it gets going, though, it's good. And if they would have done a better job with, I don't even know. I don't even remember the villain in Venom, like Venom 2. I don't know what the hell they were calling him. But sometimes you couldn't tell who was who in the big fight scenes and stuff.
Right.
If they did a better job of differentiating those two characters, I think the movie would have been a lot better. It's fun, though.
It's also awkward because it's Venom, but he doesn't have the spider.
Yeah, I know.
It's just the whole rights thing is ridiculous, you know?
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of silly.
So.
You ain't gonna know what hit him.
Mike L., how do you feel about them eventually making Venom a superhero or a good guy?
Oh, terrible idea. It's
awful.
Like, I think Venom was cool when Todd McFarlane was drawing him, and then he immediately started to go downhill when Eric Larson started drawing it with, remember the jagged eyes and like the gigantic bottom jaw and all that?
Yeah.
Remember that later?
I like that.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
I prefer this.
When we get into this issue, there's definitely a way that McFarland drew Venom here in the Earth. It's much different than what Venom would eventually become.
Yes.
Right.
I've made note of it as well. There's one discernible, like, specific feature that's real fucked up in this issue.
All right, we'll get to that. But all right, well, let's go, because the creation of Venom, it's actually a lot of people are involved. Like David Michelinie and Todd McFarlane were given official credit, but a lot of people were involved in creating Venom. And by the way, Michael, preparing for this, I watched a couple videos.
Really?
And, yeah, I do a lot of work.
Watch the Venom video from Eminem?
No, I did not.
Right.
Because I didn't even want to know what hit him. And in one video, David, because we've had this discussion on the show, Larry. I know you're a loyal listener of the show, so you'll be aware of this.
Right.
But we always debate how to say these people's names, like these creators, because, you know, growing up, you never hear their names pronounced. So with the writer here is David Michelinie, or Liney, and Michael, we had a big argument about, not argument, but a discussion about it, and we settled on David Michelinie. But in these videos I watched, Michael, one said David Michelinie, and one said Michelinie.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
so I don't even know where we're at now.
Well,
I don't know.
My source is the letters page of Amazing Spider-Man,
Oh, okay.
where they actually say it rhymes with pickle my knee. So that's where I get Michelinie from.
What rhymes with what? Pickle miney? What the hell?
Pickle my knee. Like pickle my and then your knee. You know, like your knee.
Oh, okay.
Pickle my knee.
Michelinie. All right, fair enough. So we'll go with Michelinie. So yeah, he and McFarlane are officially credited with creating him, but actually, a lot of people, you can actually trace it back to John Byrne, Michael, technically.
Well, can I go back one tiny step? Are you familiar with the fan that actually came up with the... yes, okay.
Well, this is technically, I don't know, I think Byrne might have been actually before that, because when Byrne was drawing the Iron Fists comic book way back, and Larry's going to love this background, because he loves comic book history.
Right.
I knew what I was walking into tonight.
Like when we say John Byrne, Larry, do you know who that is?
Yeah, he played the Punisher.
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's exactly right. He's a very famous artist who drew the X-Men, Fantastic Four, a bunch of stuff. Because Larry loves the X-Men too.
I love the X-Men.
Is that a joke or is that serious?
That's a joke. They are by far and away the worst comic book superhero troupe ever. They're so corny. But anyways, go ahead.
Talk about that later, okay?
Yeah, they're a troupe. But anyway, when John Byrne was drawing Iron Fist, he realized like every issue, and this would have been like 80, 81, somewhere around there. He said like every issue, Iron Fist was tearing up his costume, and so he wanted to come up with a way to like fix it. And he said, "Oh, well, what if he wore a bioorganic organism as a costume and it healed itself?" So, but he never got a chance to use the idea because then he left Iron Fist right after that. So, but that idea went on the shelf, and then eventually Roger Stern, the editor, asked if they could use that for a character in Spider-Man that they were creating called Venom.
Wow.
So initially, you can kind of trace it all the way back to John Byrne. And then next, there was that contest for fans. Marvel used to use these contests to try and scout new talent. And writers and artists could send in stuff. And this fella named Randy Scholler won the contest because he submitted an idea for basically the Venom outfit. And Jim Shooter bought the idea for $220. And he said Randy could write the first issue using this idea. But Randy never was able to write an issue. Like he tried, and I guess they kept rejecting his ideas, and he said eventually he just gave up, and so it never came to fruition. But his idea was like the Venom costume it is now, or the Spider-Man black costume the way it is now, but with a red spider instead of a white spider.
Interesting. Okay.
So then after that, Shooter and Mike Zeck, when they were doing Secret Wars, decided to introduce the new black Spider-Man outfit. And they also created Julia Carpenter, the new Spider-Woman in Secret Wars. And her outfit was black with the white spider. So then when Spider-Man used the alien technology on the Secret Wars to create his new costume, he said he must have subconsciously been influenced by seeing Spider-Woman's costume. So that's why his came out the way it did. Black with the white spider.
Which kind of ruins it, in my opinion. Yeah.
I agree. It's so silly.
Right.
Larry,
ripped it off.
Larry, are you even aware of the Spider-Woman with the black outfit and the white spider?
No, I don't believe so.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, because it's kind of stupid. You see her pop up with this outfit that's pretty cool, and then, Spider-Man just does the same thing. It's like, oh, all right. Well, whatever. So then, after that, Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz developed the black costume for Spider-Man as an alien symbiote that was trying to bond with Peter Parker. And they were the ones who gave the weaknesses of fire and sound. Then Peter David wrote the Sin Eater storyline in Web of Spider-Man, which eventually provided Eddie Brock's origin and why he's so mad at Spider-Man, which we'll get into it later. And then David Michelinie, he had the original idea for a character named Venom, but he wanted it to be a woman. He wanted it to be a lady. And his idea was this pregnant lady was on her way to the hospital, and her husband was out in the street, flagging down a cab so they could go to the hospital. And Spider-Man is in a fight with the living monolith. And the cab driver looks up to watch Spider-Man, and he hits the lady's husband and kills him. And then she loses the baby because of all the trauma.
Right, I remember that.
So she goes insane, and she becomes obsessed with killing Spider-Man, and that's when the symbiote bonds with her, and she goes after Spider-Man. But I guess the editors thought no one would believe a lady could fight Spider-Man like that, so they said make it a fella and make him a big guy. So that's how we get Venom. And that's where Todd McFarlane comes in, and he drew the Venom with the big smile and everything. But Eric Larson, like you mentioned, Michael, he was the one who made the tongue and the real jaggy fangs, and the drool. And those are like, Larry. When you think of Venom now, do you think of the tongue and the drool and the fangs and everything?
Yes, that's the Venom I like.
That's Eric Larson. Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the thing I was talking about earlier. Is like McFarlane's Venom has textbook teeth. Like these are the teeth you want if you're a human being. Like these are perfect. They're white. They're squared off. They're straight. Yeah. And I was like, all right, well, at some point he's going to fang out, but he doesn't.
Kind of looks like a news anchor.
Yeah, he's like Hollywood celebrity.
And like I was mentioning, Michael, technically you could argue the first appearance of Venom is Web of Spider-Man 18 from 1986.
Yes, that's true. Because I think you see Eddie Brock's hand, right? Don't you?
Yeah, you see a hand. Someone pushes Peter Parker in front of a subway train.
Right.
And his spider sense never went off. It never tingled. So he's like, what happened? How come I wasn't warned? And so they were planting the seeds to make that Venom. And then...
I have that issue.
Really?
Yes, I have this issue. I know I have this issue.
Wow.
Shit. Wow. Yeah. And then in Web of Spider-Man 24, the next year, what was like 6 issues later or whatever, we also see Peter Parker on the side of a building. He's climbing. I think they're in Vegas or something, or maybe they're near. I don't know, whatever. But he's climbing up a building dressed as Peter Parker, and an arm reaches out from a window and throws his foot off the building and makes him fall. And that was also Venom. So, but those weren't connected to Venom until much later.
And that's like a full at least a year and a half before this issue, right?
Yes. Yep.
Very cool.
They were planning this Venom character a long time, but then I guess Michelinie left the Web of Spider-Man, So he
Right.
I'm just going to keep the character. And then when he went to Amazing Spider-Man not long after, he, introduced it there. But so there you go. That's the backstory of Venom.
And one more thing, I believe that either Rick Leonardi or Mike Zeck tweaked that design even further, right? Like the final design of Spider-Man's black costume, let's put it that way, was one of those two, either Mike Zeck or Rick Leonardi. And then,
Zeck.
huh? Was it Zeck?
Was Zeck
Okay.
for Secret Wars.
Okay. And then obviously Todd McFarlane came up with the idea for the smile, actually. He just randomly drew it on in number 299.
Yeah.
As far as I know.
But again, normal teeth, no fangs, no big jaw.
As it should be.
No tongue. I don't know. I think I'm with Larry. I think I like the Eric Larson better.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, so let's get into the story here. Amazing Spider-Man 300. Let's talk about the cover, Michael.
So should I do this or should Larry, since this is Larry's big episode?
Well, Larry, would you like to break down the cover for us?
Well, the cover's just like him in some, very McFarlane-like pose.
Yes.
Kind of legs up overhead type thing, swinging. And it has like 300 written all over the cover.
In the background.
Yeah. But it's a very McFarlane-like Spider-Man.
And it's a very iconic cover. Like a lot of people have ripped it off over the years. Well, I guess ripping it off is harsh. Paid tribute to it over the years in various books. And also, this is the special 25th anniversary issue of The Amazing Spider-Man.
Well, can I also talk about how much I love this pose? Mm-hmm. I love it. Like obviously he's bent in an unnatural way, but unlike later artists, this at least looks like he's just extremely what's the word when you're really flexible. But it actually, somewhat confines to human anatomy,
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I also like the way instead of giving him a blue costume with like black shadows, this is pure black with blue lines to delineate the muscles, which I really like. So I've always loved this cover.
Yeah, the thing about McFarlane, we'll get into his art as we go through the issue, but I love the way he drew Spider-Man in the costume.
Yes.
Yes. Like it's tough to appreciate now, but back then when this was coming out, it was very revolutionary the way he drew Spider-Man. Like with the big eyes,
right.
The webbing, the
squiggly
webbing.
I love his webbing.
And lots of excess webbing, there'd always be extras flying around behind him and stuff. And the exaggerated poses, like you mentioned. Yeah, he really brought energy and a new life to Spider-Man.
Well, I remember, too, like, I was kind of fading out of comics at that point. But then, when I saw McFarlane's Spider-Man, I was like, what the hell's going on with this thing? I gotta check this out. And I was in for McFarlane's Spider-Man run. And I even followed him to Spawn, and then I was kind of, I don't know, Spawn's okay, and then I just kind of faded back out again.
Larry, you didn't own this issue, did you, Larry? 300.
I did. I know I have it. I know I have it somewhere, but I can't find this issue. I have, like I said, I have all the rest of these. I know I have that Web of Spider-Man 18. I have pretty much anything. Like if McFarlane was drawing it, I had it. I know I did.
Well, this goes for anywhere between like $600 and $1,100.
I hear ya.
I bought this off the stands, and I held on to it for about 20 years or whatever, and then only about 5 or 10 years ago, I sold it for a solid $3.
Oh!
That's because it was so beat up that it was, you know what I mean? Like,
but still, why would you even bother selling it? Just keep
I don't know. Honestly, hey, on my deathbed, that's going to be one of my biggest regrets, right?
Yeah, that's just silly.
Well, also, I'd also like to say, like, if I do have this somewhere, it's beat to shit too. It's nowhere like it's not a mint book. Right. It's definitely been read.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't have any of these early. I didn't have this one. I think I started buying Spider-Man a little bit after this. Like I guess Venom comes back in like I think issue 316 and 317. I had both of those.
Right.
And then when McFarlane gets his own Spider-Man line, right?
Yeah, like his final issue on Amazing Spider-Man is like 324 or 328, something like that.
329.
329.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, he gets his own series. Yeah.
But Venom's heavy in that, if I remember.
No, he's not in it at all.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. All right.
The first villain was Lizard in Calypso.
Right.
The first villains, yeah.
Lizard's another good classic.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the way McFarland drew him, too. Made him real.
That was the cool thing, right? Is he basically redesigned all the villains. Every time he brought them back, he gave them his own spin on them, you know? He put his own spin on them. That was cool.
The other thing about this cover, if you are one of the ones that own this cover, I guess the reason like the price can vary so much is all those little red 300s in the background. I guess they're different tones depending on the printing batch because they were running out of red ink. So some you'll see like the red will be brighter at the top of the book and then it gets darker as it goes down, but it wasn't intentional. It was all meant to be one shade of red, but so depending on what printing batch you got, the red will be a little different, and I guess some people will, that'll affect the price.
Wow. Okay.
It's weird.
And I guess it was also common for a lot of these books to be sun damaged because they were so popular that comic book shops would put them in the window. And
yes.
So that would mean like some of the whites would be faded. So I guess people were real, sticklers about that stuff when they're judging this. But it's a very famous cover, though. Very famous. All right, so there we go into the big issue here, the big splash page. And Michael, why don't you start describing the story for us?
Sure. So we open up, as we said in the previous issue, the last couple pages, where Mary Jane comes home and she sees what she thinks is Peter in the dark. So she starts talking to him, and then when he comes out of the shadows, it's actually Venom. And so now she's sort of cowering in the corner with tears in her eyes, and she's like, please don't come near, don't touch me. So the implication is that Venom has been terrorizing her. Obviously, if this was like an adult comic, he probably would have been violent, but because it's a kid's story, I guess he just scares her, but doesn't actually touch her, doesn't do anything. And so Spider-Man comes home, but at first she thinks that it's Venom again, so she's all freaked out. But then Peter pulls off his mask. And, we should also point out that at this point, Spider-Man did have a black costume, but it was just a cloth costume. So
yeah, it's weird.
Yeah,
weird.
I was going to ask you guys about this because obviously I'm not reading it, but why does he have a black costume if it's not the alien costume?
Yes.
Does he just like that look?
Yeah, like basically, I think he got the costume. He got the alien costume in 252. And by 259, he realized it was an alien, so he got rid of it. But then he, soon after, just made a cloth one, and he had that one all the way up to this issue.
I think he would just go back to the red and blue right away. I guess we should mention, the way they introduced the costume, like it premiered in, what issue did it make its debut, Michael? Secret Wars,
Well, technically, Amazing 252. That was the first appearance.
Yeah, yes. But in Secret Wars, when did it come in?
Number
8 or 9 or whatever?
I think it was 8, yeah.
But because that was a 12-issue limited series, like you said, the Spider-Man continuity kept going.
Right.
So he debuted in the black costume in Spider-Man way before it showed up in Secret Wars.
Right. Exactly.
And then, the backlash when it came out was so bad that Jim Shooter actually told him, well, just ditch the black costume right away. But they didn't want to ditch it until at least it got explained in Secret Wars. Right. So they kept, and by the time Secret Wars caught up to Spider-Man, people had gotten used to it and actually thought it was kind of cool, so they kept it then.
Right.
Around. And then they decided to do more stuff with it with Venom and everything. But, so yeah.
They ain't gonna know what hit them.
Anyway. So Mary Jane she realizes Peter, so she's all good. And basically, they decide that she is so scared by what happened to Venom that she's too scared to stay in the apartment because she feels like, any noise she's going to, freak out at. So they decide, okay, screw this, we're going to get a hotel. So then we cut over to Venom going back to his apartment, and this is where we find out right away who Venom really is. Turns out he's Eddie Brock, but actually, no, we don't find out yet. We just see his face, right? But he's this big, bulky guy, and he's like, well, I'm going to go and work out. So we don't know anything yet. We just know.
We got to describe his apartment, though, Michael. This is quite the bachelor pad. Yeah,
this is basically, it just looks like a rundown, crappy apartment with, wood on the windows. And he comes in, and there's this giant, whatever this is called, whatever this is called.
like a big weightlifting equipment and bench press and just nothing.
It looks like Rocky's apartment.
Yeah,
Paper clippings on the walls and stuff. That's where, it's where Rocky lives.
Right. It's all Spider-Man newspaper clippings all over the wall.
Yeah, like in my room, I just have Oscar clippings over the wall, and he has Spider-Man clippings.
Right.
And he's very obsessed. But he's benching in his underpants, and he wants to get real jacked, and because he's got to be strong to fight Spider-Man.
Right.
And he's just real. So then we cut to Peter Parker and Mary Jane in the hotel room, and Parker starts flashing back to his history with the alien costume.
Right. So yeah, we're basically flashing back to Secret Wars, showing him getting the costume, and then we show Reed Richards realizing it's an alien, and then he figures out that Sonic's sound basically is how he can defeat the alien. And so at some point, which I guess was Web of Spider-Man #1, he thought that he he got rid of the costume, then the costume came back in Web of Spider-Man #1, and he thought that he killed it, but obviously he didn't. So he's like, well, this sounds like the way Mary Jane's talking. It sounds like that's my old costume, but that can't be true because it's dead, right? So he's not sure what's going on. So yeah, so they wake up and they're hanging out, and of course, Todd McFarlane draws her in this really sexy, skimpy nightgown. And
how about that, Larry?
I know it's
how
only
about
a
that,
cartoon,
Mary Jane? Yeah. Looking good.
Yeah.
I like it. But dig Peter Parker's back there. I don't mean to be harsh on McFarlane, but that's not what backs look like.
No, I know. That's just a bunch of lines. Yeah.
Yes, he just put lines in there to be lines. That's not how anatomy works. But all right, whatever.
So then Mary Jane's going to make some phone calls, which we'll find out what she's calling about later. But then Spider-Man's like, okay, well, I'm going to go clear my head. I'm going to do some swinging. So he goes back to his old apartment that he's been in for, I don't know, in comic book time, probably 5, or in real time, probably 5 years. I don't know.
Well, I think she said she wants him to go get his camera, or he's going to go get his camera because they're going to take pictures of
the apartment, right? Because they're going to get it, right.
So while he's going to get his camera, though, he stops off and gets a big sonic cannon gun.
Right, which we don't see, but he refers to it, yeah. He's like, I borrowed this sonic blaster from the Fantastic Four on my way over, so.
Yeah.
So then he checks his messages, and he's got a message from Aunt May, which we'll get back to later. But then we see, I don't know how he had time to do this, but he's already packed all the stuff in his apartment. And then he goes outside, and this, again, we'll get into detail later, but this is the worst McFarlane sequence of the whole issue, where basically it looks like what he's done at the bottom of this page is he's photocopied Peter Parker in the same position 5 times and just changed the background to show that he's been followed by Eddie Brock on all these different street corners. But Eddie Brock is also changing his costume, so he's obviously, Peter is not quite sure. He says he feels like he's being followed, but he's not sure, right? Because Eddie Brock does not activate his spider sense, so he's not sure exactly what's going on.
Yeah, I don't think those guys in the background are actually Eddie Brock, though. I think they're just dudes. Because they're not as big as Eddie Brock. Only 2 of them could possibly be Eddie Brock.
Okay, could be. I just got the impression that because he has the costume, that he can just take on whatever clothes he wants. But maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right. He probably could, but the guys in panels 1 and 3 at least definitely look skinnier.
Different, yeah. They don't look like Eddie Brock. That's for sure. Okay, so then Peter's like, well, I'm getting paranoid, but I don't know what's going on, so I'm just going to start web swinging. So he turns a corner, and Eddie Brock has been following him, but he gives up. By the way, what is that squawking sound? Do you guys hear that?
It's Larry.
What is he doing?
How's it me? I'm just sitting here.
I don't know.
All right.
Okay.
Do you have TV on or anything?
I do not.
I thought maybe you were watching Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah. No, I have Roseanne on mute.
What the hell?
Well, that's probably doing it.
Anyway.
But Larry, dig Eddie Brock there when he's in the alley and Spider-Man gives him the slip. Look at the graffiti on the walls in the alley there.
Yeah. Punk rules.
Yeah, punk rules. Aaron was here.
Yeah.
Nom, which is weird. Die Muties and Doctor Who. Really big.
Nice.
Huh.
Doctor Who. That seems odd, but all right.
Yeah, they're a big fan.
And look how high up. Look how high up that graffiti is too. Someone had to jump all the way up there to write Doctor Who.
Yeah, I know. I hear what you're saying, though, is, being that this is the first I've gone back and looked at this, McFarlane really bad at drawing human beings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
you look at that shot of Spider-Man, right? Swinging.
Yeah, it's great.
That is
Great.
great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like the position, the webs, the design, the buildings, the birds. But then right before that, Eddie Brock in the alley, it looks like crap.
Yeah. And
all his faces look like they're made out of silly putty.
Yes.
And like all they also tend to be flat and not like three-dimensional. So like I don't know, it's just a lot of excess lines that don't need to be there, and it's definitely a distinctive style, but it's not necessarily good.
I mean, even in that
cartoony.
panel, that it is cartoony. That panel with the graffiti on the wall, it just looks like jacked up Bazooka Joe.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Yeah, like if you're right. If you were to just look at that panel, it's garbage. But you can see in the next panel how like he does have an incredible talent, but it's like, to me, if I were to look at this, I'd go, if I was like the editor, I'd go, okay, look, kid, you got to go to school, you got to learn anatomy, you got to do some training, and then come back in a couple of years and we'll hire you. But, just like
here's what I'd do. I'd say, here, kid, you draw all the Spider-Men, and then we'll give it to someone else who can draw everything else.
There you go. Yeah, maybe that's it.
that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
But, what can you do? So then Mary Jane and Peter go look at their new apartment. And, Larry, this is my favorite scene in the book. This is tremendous.
So do you want to explain it, Mike?
Well, you start off, Michael, and I'll come in at the end.
So Mary Jane is like, she can see that Peter's kind of like down and out. And so she's like, well, you know what? I got an idea. Why don't we start doing some fashion photography? Like, start taking photos of me. And he's like, well, I don't have the right training. She's like, come on, it's easy. So, he takes a couple photos, but then right away he gets bored again. He's like, it's hopeless. And then this is where Mike Dell comes in. You can pick it up from here.
Yeah, so Mary Jane. Larry, would you like to describe what Mary Jane's wearing in this scene?
Like a pink, top with a black miniskirt, fishnets, blue sashy belt.
Yeah, the fishnets. And so she says, Peter's getting even more depressed. Got to do something to perk him up. And then she says, in that case, man o' mine, and she's undoing her top. Yeah. And then in the next scene, you see the top hitting the floor, but you just see her high heels and the fishnets up to like the ankles. And she says, how about taking some shots for our private collection? And then the narration, this is the best part, the narration box, slowly, Peter's spirits begin to rise.
Oh. I love it.
And by spirits, they mean dick.
Yeah.
They mean that.
Yeah. Excitement pole. Yep.
Oh.
This excitement pole climbs to the ceiling.
Yep.
But yeah, I'll say this about McFarlane and Mary Jane. Like, sure, sometimes her proportions are off, and her face, especially with the face and everything. But he does give her a lot of sex appeal.
That's true.
Definitely makes her sexy, which is way better than like the girl next door, Mary Jane. That seems to be the flavor of this in the current day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, but the counter to that is that it's also ridiculous that she would be with a guy like Peter, right?
Well, that is, but they grew up next to each other. They have a history, you know what I mean? It's not like they just cry. There's an extra history there, so.
Yeah.
But, he's Spider-Man. He's not a failed photographer or anything. He's saving the world and shit. He's just trying to, get a legitimate job so he can chip in on the bills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because she's a big fashion model at this point, right, Michael? Like she
is. She's getting bigger and bigger as far as.
He's the most famous superhero in that city.
Yeah,
but that doesn't pay.
That doesn't pay.
True. Yeah. So then we cut over to, now they're visiting Aunt May at the boarding house.
So she owns a boarding house? Like, when did this happen? This
is the house that that Peter grew up in. She had moved out of it. Then she went back, bought it, and turned it into a boarding house for seniors. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I had no idea. I don't remember this at all either.
Yeah. It's like that episode of The Twilight Zone.
Yeah, so there's like Nathan Lubinsky and then a couple other boarders just hanging out, having dinner. And then they're doing the dishes and chatting it up and blah, blah, blah. And then we cut over to Eddie Brock. Now he's in a church. And this is actually a really cool scene. He's talking to himself. Well, he's talking to the costume, but basically he's talking to himself. And then a cop comes in and accuses him of stealing the money out of the what are they called?
Lockbox?
Four
boxes.
Yeah. And he's like, no, actually, I didn't do that. But he doesn't. But the cop doesn't believe him. So then Eddie unleashes his costume, and the symbiote or symbiote whatever, covers up the cop's face and actually suffocates him. So it's kind of a gruesome murder scene. It's kind of cool. And then Eddie's like, well, innocent death is always unpleasant, but nothing must stand in our way. And then that's it. So now we know this guy's, he's a cold-hearted killer, right? So now he's even scarier.
And the reason he's at that church is that was at the church where he became Venom.
That's right. That's right.
I guess they talk about that later there, right?
Yeah, the origin. Yeah, he gives more of his origin, right. So then we cut over to, so now this is kind of cool because,
I don't know if this is cool.
Well,
that's a very low bar for cool. If this,
I think it's cool because now this has been Peter's supporting cast for years now. Like Randy, Bambi, and Candy, and like this apartment. And now he's moving out. So now he's moving on to new things because now there's a new writer, a new artist, right? So it's a new era for Spider-Man.
Yeah, all their friends are helping them move into their new apartment, and we see Flash Thompson there helping move a mattress, and he's wearing a Gumby T-shirt.
Yeah. That's true.
No, I didn't even notice that. Yeah, he does.
That seems strange. But like the we get in thought balloons, we get in a bunch of people's heads here, and all their thoughts are really dumb and just terribly written.
What about when the girl's like, I think that's a guy. When he's like, whoa, that guy's hairdo is radical.
Yeah, and he's got yeah, it's just awful. Larry, how'd you feel about the apartment moving scene?
It's long. It's longer than it should be for a comic book, I think.
This
like
scene?
A whole page? Yeah, it's like a whole page, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's not so good. But we get McFarland drawing some more sexy ladies,
right?
In tiny tops,
so right. And then we cut over to him and Robbie. What's his name? Robbie Robertson talking on the balcony. But then Peter notices something. Somebody's swinging by, but he doesn't say anything to Robbie. He's like, I got to get out of here. So basically, he sees Venom swinging by. So he's like, okay, screw this. So then he grabs his sonic disruptor, whatever it's called, throws it on his back and starts swinging over the city, over a photocopied image of the city, as we can see in the next page. And then he tracks down Venom to his apartment, and this is where it gets really cool. So then he comes in through his, boarded up window, and right away Venom attacks him. And we see them face to face, right? This is really cool.
This is the first appearance of Venom in this issue where we actually get to see Venom.
Right. Good point.
And we get to see the smile that Larry was talking about with the gorgeous teeth.
Yeah. He's a toothpaste model, yeah. And it's funny because, if this was a movie, you'd think they'd fight for a couple minutes, but no, right away, the mask comes down, and then he reveals who he is, and he gives his origin. It's kind of funny. Right?
Yep, he fills in all the backstory.
Yeah, Eddie Brock. So now, just so everyone knows, obviously, no one actually had seen Eddie Brock. This whole origin takes place kind of in between the scenes, right? Or in between the lines, as they say. Like, this didn't actually happen in the comics. It's just in between issues. Yeah.
Well, his origin is basically he was a reporter. Right. And there was a killer in the loose called the Sin Eater.
Right.
And and Brock wrote a story claiming one person was the Sin Eater, and he got a claim for it and everything. But then Peter Parker and Spider-Man revealed that actually he had the wrong guy, and that different guy was the Sin Eater.
Right.
So it ruined Brock's career. So while the Sin Eater storyline did happen, in Web of Spider-Man, right?
And Spectacular, yeah.
Eddie Brock wasn't there, though, right? He wasn't involved.
Exactly.
So they're going back and putting Eddie Brock into that storyline. But that storyline did happen.
Yes. So basically he recounts his origin, just for, in case we wanted to know. And then as he's talking, Peter is inching his way towards the sonic disruptor to grab it, right? And over the course of 3 or 4 pages here, Eddie Brock is recounting his origin, how much he hates Spider-Man, and how he merged or united with the symbiote that found him in the church because he was going to commit suicide, but ended up merging with him, so now they're joined together. And then just as Peter or Spider-Man is about to grab the disruptor, Eddie Brock notices him, and he turns back into Venom, the costume comes back on, and then they start to fight, right? And
Yeah,
now
that's a great panel at the bottom of the page where Venom cracks Two Fists to the ground and sends
Right.
Spider-Man flying. And yeah, McFarlane's great when Spider-Man's on the page.
Right, absolutely, he's great. And then there's all these great shots of like Spider-Man smashing through the floor and Venom coming after him and punching him, and they're wrestling, and then Spider-Man is hitting him with this metal I-beam, and then Spidey, pulls out the disruptor and shoots him, and then he thinks that it's going to work because it's worked before, but instead of the symbiote, dying or detaching, it stays connected to him. So he's like, okay, this isn't working the way I thought it was, so I got to think of a new plan. So then he just takes off.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he has a weapon that just KOs Venom, but like you said, the symbiote's still sticking to him. So he's like, well, maybe I'm going to kill Eddie Brock. I can't kill him. What am I going to do? So he says, you know what I should do is I should leave this very effective weapon on the ground here next to him, and I should leave right away, and I should just try and get away without the weapon that knocked him out. Yeah,
that's bad. You're right. That's bad.
Larry, how do you feel about this?
I mean, it's dumb. I mean, it's a dumbass move.
It's real fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's a rookie move.
Yeah.
So then Venom wakes up. As soon as Spider-Man's out the window, Venom wakes up and snares him with the web and pulls him back into the apartment and just beats the holy hell out of him and knocks him unconscious.
Whop. So, knocks him out. I love that.
Geez, if only you would have had that sonic disruptor gun that you just tossed aside.
Right.
Problem.
So then Spider-Man wakes up, and he's all webbed up to the inside of this huge church bell. And I love this because Eddie Brock is wearing like a priest's outfit now. And so he's lecturing, Spider-Man, but how he's going to die and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, when the bells go off, they're going to kill you. And so Spider-Man's like, uh-oh. So then basically the bells are just about to start to ring, but as the, I don't know what this is called, but whatever this thing is called, is about to swing and hit him. Peter, the clapper, yeah, whatever. He manages to stick his hand through the webbing and to stop it with his hand. And then Eddie's like, well, this is really noisy, so I'm going to get out of here. But now he's like looking at his watch. He's like, wait a minute, I should have heard something by now. A crunch, a scream, something. So he suspects that something is wrong with his master plan, right?
Yeah.
So Spider-Man then uses the momentum of the clapper swinging away from him to pull him out of the webbing. So now he's freed himself. And
all right, we got to talk about this, though. This is so fucking stupid, too. I don't know. Sorry. Now, the reason they're back at the church is because that's where it all began. Venom says, it'll be poetic if we do it here at the church. So he webs them up into the bells. Now, keep in mind, the way Spider-Man last beat this alien costume was taking him to this church and letting the bells ring and knocking the costume off him. So Venom's like, all right, let's do that again, except I'll go wait downstairs so the bells won't affect me. And Larry, do you believe that a clapper inside a bell could crush Spider-Man?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, something I would think some mechanical. But Spider-Man's his whole life he's been taking punches from Sandman, the Rhino, getting run over by the Rhino, trading blows with Kraven the Hunter, all these supervillains. But that metal clapper and a bell is going to kill him? I don't know. I mean, theoretically, it should. It's just his head sticking out. It's just going to just take his head right off, basically.
Yes. I don't know. I didn't buy it. I don't know.
I like how he gets out, though. I like that he grabs the thing on the way back and just pulls his way out.
I thought that's how he was going to defeat Venom again. I kind of forgot, right? I thought, oh, here we go. It's going to be the bells. But no, what ends up happening is that he remembers that when he had the symbiote, that his webbing no longer came out of his web shooters. It came out of the costume. And so he realizes, wait a minute, if the webbing's coming out of his costume, then that means he's used up a whole bunch of it to web me to the inside of that bell. So if I can just force him to keep using his webbing, he's actually going to run out. So Venom is shooting his webbing at Spidey, but he keeps cutting it with this thing. So then eventually Venom runs out of webbing. What's that?
Spidey rips off a piece of the top of the bell tower.
Right.
It to slice the...
Right. So he's cutting this webbing. And so Eddie has to keep shooting webbing, but Spidey's cutting it. So eventually Venom runs out of webbing and he just falls. He plummets.
Well, I don't know if you really have to say eventually. It like twice.
Well, one, two. Yeah, I guess you're right. Twice. Okay, twice.
So it was really pretty quick. And I just hated the fact that Venom goes up to check on Spider-Man. The bells are still ringing. They're still ringing. And Venom's just walking up there like there's no problem. And then Spider-Man says, I guess I could just stay here and let the bells do the trick. But, then I might die too. Which I don't understand. Why are these bells going to kill Spider-Man?
Yeah, that's when I was like, well, maybe that suit he has on is still like a piece of that alien. I don't know
definitely not. No.
It's just they're trying to make it like the sound is so strong. But, people used to literally stand up there and ring those bells.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no way it's going to. So it just makes no sense. Like why Venom would walk up there while the bells are still going on because he knows he's powerless. And then why would Spider-Man not want to stay there? Because he knows it'll kill him. It'll kill Venom. So it's just, I don't know. I didn't like any of it. I thought it was silly. But what are you going to do?
So now Venom has been defeated. And so now we cut over. So now we see Spidey making a phone call. Who does he call here? Oh, yeah, he calls to leave a message for Mary Jane, right? And we see one of McFarland's caricatures of a person here.
Yes, that is not a human being.
Well, you know what else is weird? It's like he's down in the alley. He's like, man, I wish I could remember Mary Jane's calling card numbers. And I was like, wow, that's like having Macy Gray in the original Spider-Man movie. Like that dates your book, right?
Yeah,
calling card numbers. Oh,
very much.
Payphone. What the hell's a payphone? Do you guys have payphones in Canada, Michael?
Well, we used to. I mean,
yeah, but not anymore, right?
No, they're mostly gone. Yeah.
How many loonies did it take to make a phone call?
I don't think it was never. I don't think it was ever a loony. I think it was always a quarter, but I could be wrong.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
What's a loony? Like a buck?
That's $1. Yeah, and then $2 is a toonie.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Loony and a toonie.
But anyway, so then we cut over to Four Freedoms Plaza, which is the headquarters of the FF, the Fantastic Four, and we see the mutated version of the Thing when he got like even more mutated, right?
Now, why did this happen? Because I remember him looking like this, but I can't remember why. What happened here?
It's because he got exposed to gamma radiation again.
Mm.
Yeah, basically he has sharper rocks on his face and like a big ridge on the top of his head.
Right. People call it, this is the pineapple version of the Thing. They call it.
Yeah, he does kind of look like a pineapple.
Okay. And so, yeah, we can see that Eddie Brock is like imprisoned in this like, circular glass thing. And like the costume's there and he's there, but he's kind of like unconscious. And that's pretty much it. And so then go ahead.
We also get to see Thing wearing like a bathrobe with has like, I don't know, a cat logo on it.
That's I got to tell this story quick. That is Felix the Cat. Todd McFarlane puts a cameo appearance of Felix the Cat in every issue of Spider-Man, and that's the one for this issue.
Why?
I don't know. I think it's as a in joke to one of his friends or something.
All right.
Yeah. Cool, eh?
I guess.
Anyway, so then we cut over to so this is the new apartment already, right? They've somehow moved in like one day.
Well, they had a
2-page scene about it.
They had 30 people helping them move in with terrible dialogue and horrible clothing. Yeah. So they're hanging out here, but this is where now Mary Jane's like, well, I don't know if I can, you're still wearing that costume. It reminds me of Venom, and I just don't know if I can take it anymore. So Peter Parker does the only logical thing, and he takes off his costume and throws it in the fire. So then Mary Jane's like, well. Yeah, so she's like, I know this isn't your original costume. I love this Marvel continuity. Yeah. It's like, I know it's not the original costume. It's just this, one you got from a costume store in Germany, which I've actually read that story, and that's accurate. Yeah, that's a great story too, by the way.
Yeah, it is. It's really good. And so once again, we get Mary Jane disrobing and then jumping into the air in silhouette. So
no. She's not disrobing. No.
Yeah, she just threw the costume in the air.
That was her I thought
no.
Off her shirt. Okay.
Michael, you are such a dirty old man, Michael.
You are horny as hell.
Yeah.
But look, you know what? So look at silhouette. Look at her silhouette when Peter's holding up, and look at the panels before that. She's wearing this big bulky jacket.
Yeah, but I mean, you can see the webbing under the armpit in the silhouette.
Right. All right. Fine.
Costume.
Like, okay, fine.
Larry, I know you don't listen to these shows, Larry, but at least once an episode, Mike L tries to make each comic into a porn.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'm going to start listening then.
Especially anyway. Okay, so then that's it. So then basically, he
gets the big red and blue costume back. So on the final page,
right,
you get you get to see him swinging through the city in the red and blue outfit again.
Right, yeah, so that's what I was going to say. So then it cuts to the last page, and then once again we get a photocopied, New York City, and then a great classic shot of Spidey swinging over it.
Now, let me ask you something. I don't know, I'm not an artist or anything, but to me, when you look at that last page, maybe the left foot is a little way too small.
Yes.
They're both a little too small, I agree.
Yep. The feet are definitely too small.
Be a little bit bigger than
Again,
that.
this is pushing the boundaries of acceptable anatomy, but it still kind of works, but yeah, it's definitely a little bit wonky.
But look how cool that webbing is.
Yeah, the webbing looks good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the point of the webbing, just to distract you from the anatomy issues, McFarland.
Totally, yeah.
Webbing. So there it is, Spider-Man 300. Written by David Michelinie, as we said. Larry, what'd you think of the writing here?
The writing's fine. That whole thing at the end with, I'm just going to have him keep shooting webs at me till he drops out of the sky. I thought that was lame and lazy, but it's fine.
I hated the stuff with the bells. I hated the webbing running out. The moving in scene was awful. What else? I loved Peter's spirits being lifted, though. That was tremendous.
Risen. Yeah.
Eddie Brock, I guess his backstory makes sense. I don't know. The writing's okay here, but I just didn't like those set pieces. I didn't like Spider-Man throwing away the sonic cannon and I better leave and think of something else.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing is, when I was a kid, David Michelinie wrote Amazing Spider-Man, and he also wrote Iron Man. And I never thought they were masterpieces, but they were definitely good enough to make me want to keep reading them,
We should mention he wrote 7 issues of Web of Spider-Man from 85 to 87, and then he wrote 91 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, including 87 from a run from 296 to 388, from 88 to 95. He is the second most prolific Amazing Spider-Man writer behind Stan Lee.
That's amazing.
Stan Lee, and then David Michelinie. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I like all these little plot holes, like dropping the gun, and like the easy way that he defeats Venom it's nothing Stan Lee's not guilty of. So it's it's typical superhero fare of the day. It's not innovative. It's not going to win any awards, but I don't think it's bad though.
But Larry, how about this, Larry? Maybe if we get a little less of them moving in the apartment, we could have had some more panels of him fighting Venom. Huh?
A little bit. Yeah, something. Another splash page, or whatever that's called. McFarlane's good at those. He's good at those.
He's a splash page artist, definitely.
Yeah, I do like that about him.
All right, so let's talk more about McFarlane's art here. Like I said, when I was a kid, loved it. As a grown adult human, not a fan. But
well, again, it's like we said, it's like he definitely has talent, but ideally he would have continued to get training or schooling, right, before he became a professional. Like it's just clear he has talent, but yeah, it's just not. It doesn't look like professional comic art.
Did he ever go to school? Did we ever confirm?
I don't know, but I imagine he might have some background in like graphic design or something, because that's it looks like that's his like forte. But he just needed more schooling. Like the brutal feedback that I've heard young comic artists get, like, to me, if this was, I'm just surprised that like Jim Shooter or whoever would have hired him, like to me, they would have looked at it and gone, okay, you still need to do more work before you can work for us. But who knows?
The stuff he does that's cool is really, really cool. But then not so much. Larry, I also don't like how he draws Peter Parker. Not just the face, but he makes him like super jacked.
He is jacked, man.
But yeah, he draws Peter Parker like he's super jacked, and I don't like, because I think I like the way Ditko drew Parker. Like gangly and awkward. Like Spider-Man should be like lean and not bulky. Yes, wiry. Exactly, Larry. Exactly. And we already mentioned Venom and the teeth. Yeah, I don't know. I'm with Larry. I like the Venom with the big jaw and the drool and the sharp teeth.
Yeah, not me.
Love it.
But I got to point out something. Like, okay, can you guys go to Digital 16? You know the shot where Aunt May's doing the dishes?
Okay.
Like, see the close-up of Aunt May. Like, the one close-up where she's like, oh, well, sniff, I guess in that case, the shot in the middle there. That, to me, is it like most artists of this day, they would have done cross-hatching and shadows. And I think one of the reasons McFarlane stood out is because he didn't do that. If you notice, it's all lines. He draws everything with lines. And, again, his anatomy is all over the place, but his style, I think, is great. And I think it gets better over time. Like when he starts doing the Spider-Man series later and then Spawn. I don't know what you guys think, but...
Well, his style is really, let's just put in as many lines as we can in their face. And let's see what happens.
But it's not like other artists like Liefeld tried to do it, but it just came off as ugly. This, at least, there's some idea of what he's doing here, I think, It's for a purpose, even if it's not accurate.
At least he's consistent in what he does.
Right.
That's good. That's good. What was I going to say about McFarlane? Oh, like this is very 90s art. Like early 90s art. Even though this is 88. This is still, like when I think of 90s comic book art, this is it. Like
totally.
Early 90s art.
Like he's probably the guy, right? Like
him and Liefeld and Jim Lee.
Right.
Yeah, are the three I think of. Right?
Yeah, like it's got all the hallmarks, like the big giant close-up of Eddie's face and then the little panels, showing his origin. And then there's another one with Peter, right? A big shot of his face and then there's little panels next to him, which I think he got from Jim Steranko. But still, yeah, like he made it like a thing that everybody did. And like even like the Venom grin, right? Like McFarlane kind of had all the bad guys grin like that, and then Liefeld imitated it, and then all the bad guys would do that after this,
Yes.
So
I don't know. There you go, Larry. What else would you want to say about your buddy Venom? And,
I don't know. I think we covered most of it, I just, once again, like I haven't read these in so long, I don't remember storylines and specifics. I really don't.
Well, is it as good as you remember it was when you were a kid?
This particular issue?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's worse than I remember it being.
Yeah.
Yeah. I when I was like, 3/4 of the way through this, I was like, man, maybe I was just an idiot when I was a kid. It's all right. I remember it being like, McFarlane, and I was like, it's okay.
I was disappointed as well. I was expecting this to be awesome, and it is definitely not awesome.
It's not awesome.
So,
yeah,
it's just kind of there.
I used to reread this every year. Then it was every few years. Then I remember. There's a reason I sold it. Like 5 or 10 years ago, I was like, okay, I'm never going to read this again. But little did I know, I would be doing a podcast about Bronze Age comic books. In fact, I'll be reviewing this again next year on Here Comes the Spider Cast. So I'll have to read it again for that.
Oh no.
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's so fun though. Like, definitely. Let's put it this way: if you were 13, this would be perfect, right?
Yeah. Of course. We're very old, bitter men.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. There's elements to it I like, though. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I hated it.
No. Yeah.
There are definitely some really cool panels here. Like Larry said, that shot of Spider-Man getting pulled out of the webbing and the bell.
Right.
Like, that's a really cool panel. So there's some good stuff in here, but
and the thing is it's also clear where they could have improved it. Like they could have had Venom taunt him a little bit more. Like instead of Peter just following him back to his apartment and then right away he just gives away his whole origin, it would have been nice to have a fight and then Eddie Brock gets away and then the mystery is unraveled a little bit more slowly, right? But it's like they didn't use the pages the way they should have. Like
they had to move. They had to move.
Yeah.
They had to move into that new apartment.
Right.
You find that odd too, that like they're like, she's all like, I hate being here, and he's like, all right, well, we'll get a hotel room, and then when they get up in the morning, she's like, hey, remember that real hard apartment? I got it already. Like overnight, like we just got it. And like, what?
Very convenient. Yeah.
Worked out.
And also, I know you're scared and everything, but you sleep with Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's Spider-Man. Yeah, so
it'll be okay.
Even your new swanky apartment, Eddie Brock will just show up there. It doesn't really matter. It's not like, oh, well, they have a doorman. I can't fuck at this place.
So There it is, Spider-Man 300. So 1 out of 10, Michael, what would you give it?
Ooh, I've been mulling this over in my head. I think before we had to talk, I was going to give it like an 8.
Whoa.
But it has dropped down to probably a 6 or 6.5.
You and the fucking 0.5. Sorry, Larry.
I agree with Mike L. I'm going to go 6. I don't hate it, but it's lazy at times.
I'll go 5.
Yeah,
5.
Middle of the road. I just can't get past the big plot holes, and I don't know. I was underwhelmed with the Bell scene at the end.
I really do.
Disappointing.
I really do love the black suited Spider-Man, especially with like the baby blue definition lines.
Right, me too. I love that.
I do love it. Yes, I've always loved the black suit.
So you like that suit better than the traditional red and blue?
I'm not saying I like it better, but I love it though.
Yep, I agree.
Huh.
I've always
don't you like the black suit, Mike Dell?
It's okay, but I mean, I want them in blue and red, and that's why they got rid of the costume, by the way, because when Todd McFarlane said they wanted him to draw Spider-Man, he said, "I'll draw Spider-Man, but I'm only drawing him if you give him his blue and red back."
That's right.
So,
yeah.
So that's why this issue you see him get back to the blue and red. So.
All right. Well. Did you know he's Canadian?
I did know that. Oh, one other thing about Todd McFarlane, because the last time we talked about him, Michael, when our buddy Kevin Jank was on, we did that Hulk issue.
Mm-hmm.
I brought up the story about how NHL enforcer Tony Twist. Remember Tony Twist?
Yes.
Remember that? But he sued McFarlane because McFarlane named a character Tony Twist in the Spawn universe who was like a gangster, and when Twist eventually got $5 million out of McFarlane for it. And during that episode, I was like, it's pretty stupid though. Well, like, why wouldn't Twist just say, "Hey, McFarlane, just don't use my name"? And you know, so I was kind of upset by Twist, like disappointed that he would sue over something so stupid. But I guess I did further reading on it. Twist did reach out to McFarlane and said, "Hey, could you quit using my name?" And McFarlane said no. So that's why he sued.
Ah, wow. Okay.
So, but that's such a McFarlane thing to do, though, right? Just like that just seemed like that kind of guy. Like, yeah, no, I'm not going to stop. I'm Todd McFarlane. He has to pay $5 million.
Well, dude, how much did he pay for that Mark McGuire ball? I mean, $5 million.
Like 6 or 7 million, wasn't it?
It was a lot. I thought it was less. I thought it was like 1.
I thought it was just like one or two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought it was low. Yeah, like, but I don't know. Even still, but it's fucking baseball. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but so I would just like to apologize to Tony Twist because he could beat me up, and I don't want him to beat me up. So
St. Louis Blues, Mike Dell.
That's right.
Yeah, see, we have a hockey podcast, Mike L.
I've heard about it.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever listened to it, but
I wouldn't either.
Larry, why don't you tell the kids about your new Mackey's Clubhouse show?
Yeah, let's hear about this.
Yeah, we got Kevin Jank and I. We have a podcast called Mackey's Clubhouse, in which we break down 2 episodes of The Shield each week. The TV show The Shield, yeah. And The Shield is currently running on FX. You can start there. We're only. I think we recorded one yesterday. I think we did episodes 7 and 8 of season 1. So we're not too far into it. So there's time
Hold
to catch
up. So you're not talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You're talking about The Shield.
The Shield with
I gotcha. Okay.
Michael Chiklis.
Yeah,
right. I heard that's really good show. Never seen it.
Yeah, it's a great show.
Okay.
The man who played Thing in the first Fantastic Four.
That's right. Yep.
The commish.
Yeah.
So I guess that's it for this week then, eh? Are you going to announce next week's pick?
Yes, our buddy Miles Watson will be returning to the show next week. And I let him make the pick, and he chose What If number 39, I believe. Let me confirm this. From 1977. And the big question in that issue is, what if Thor had battled Conan the Barbarian?
Okay.
So, what if issue 39 for 1977? And if you're not familiar with the what if stories, that's basically what it is. It'd be like, what if this happened? What if they take some moment in the Marvel history and they tweak it a little bit and they say, what would have happened if Uncle Ben never died? That kind of thing. Or, how would that have changed Spider-Man?
Thor and Conan. So it's like, what if we took the 2 most boring characters ever and had them fight each other? Good God.
I don't even know like that would be a fight. Really, Thor's a god, and Conan's just a dude in furry underpants. Is that really a fight?
That is true. Like, he has no. Yeah, there's no powers to him. He just has a sword.
Right.
Yeah.
Thor would just smack him with the hammer one time, blast him into 7 universes away, and it'd be over.
I don't know if this is going to be a fight necessarily, but we'll check it out next week. What if?
Maybe Conan outthinks him.
That would be pretty sad if he got outsmarted.
Tune in next week and find out.
Well, thank you, Larry.
Yes,
thank you
finally
for coming on the show.
I love my comics.
Was it everything you hoped it would be, Larry?
Oh, it was. Yeah, it definitely was.
Now, what are the odds of you coming back on? For another 42 weeks past.
I can come on whenever you guys want. I don't care.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, what about if we do G.I. Joe, Larry?
Oh yeah.
You don't say.
I was into the G.I. Joe comics. I have some of those.
Yeah, so there you go.
I'll take note of that.
Yeah.
Keep an eye out for it.
Or Transformers. Remember when Spidey? Remember when they crossed over? Black suited Spider-Man was hanging out.
You don't say. Huh? Okay.
Mike L loves the Transformers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't even really remember Spidey crossing over. Like when?
Yeah, he was. There was. I think it was maybe just like a 4-issue run. Was it, Mike L?
No, it was Spider-Man appeared in Transformers #3 as a guest star.
Oh, that was it. It was just one.
Yeah, just
one
issue. Yep.
All right. I think I have it. I think. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay, good to know. Well, yeah, I guess that wraps up this episode. If you guys are interested in following us, we're on Stitcher, we're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all under Comic Book Syndicate to make it as confusing as possible. But yeah, you can find us under Comic Book Syndicate under Flea Market Fantasy, along with Here Comes the Spider-Cast. Every week we cover a different Bronze Age comic book, ranging from 1970 to 1989. So, as usual, this has been Mike L with Mike Dell and joined by Larry, who will be coming back again. So, until next Tuesday, disperse!